Hey everybody, the Bible contradicts itself in many different places and in many different ways, and that's just not really up for serious debate. But that does not mean that every proposed contradiction has to be accepted as a contradiction. There are many different cases where a better translation or manuscript or a better reconstruction of the historical context or of the literary conventions can help us resolve two passages that might at first appear to conflict with each other. And sometimes scholars will tentatively and responsibly propose hypothetical scenarios that reconcile two passages, provided those hypothetical scenarios constitute more plausible explanations for how the passages got to be the way they are than explanations that just acknowledge that they conflict with each other. Now, this is different from the apologetic approach of denying that there are any contradictions in the Bible, and there are a handful of methodological problems with this approach. One of the most foundational is the insistence on a very specific and a very narrow and technical definition of the word contradiction. And this definition insists that contradictions only exist if there is no possible way that two different propositions can be true at the same time. And if we accept that definition, then as long as I can imagine any possible scenario or combination of scenarios that reconcile these two propositions, there is no contradiction. And that lowers the bar literally to the ground, because as long as there's no limit to the number of scenarios you can imagine, you can reconcile any two passages or any two propositions. And this lowering of the bar to the ground is intentional, because it makes the threshold possibility, meaning it is only a contradiction if it is totally impossible to reconcile it. And since it's not really totally impossible to reconcile anything, you can always gin up that tiniest little sliver of not impossible. Now, this highlights that the target audience for these arguments is not scholars, because scholars are not looking for the tiniest little sliver of not impossible. They're looking for what's plausible, what's probable, and this does not remotely meet those evidentiary standards, even though it has to perform as if it is for critical scholarship. The target audience is people who already believe and just want to feel justified in that belief. And for most of them, they are just looking for that tiny little sliver of not impossible, and that is what apologetics delivers.